Welcome to C2C Live. That is Chris K. I am Matt Bruening. Looks like no Austin Nace tonight. We will be talking about our playoff reactions as the CFP has released their first rankings of the 2025 season. We will also be discussing the firing of Hugh Freeze. It is 8:30 Eastern time, the only time zone that tried to take a picture of the supermoon, and their camera said it is too big, which is also what she said to Chris.
I said don't rope me into this.
I was going to say, Chris told me to leave him out of that because, I have a feeling I have a message now from HR and Austin is very upset. But, Chris, I got to take someone with me. They say misery loves company. I want someone to go down with me here. But, we've got a fun show today as we're going to talk about, we'll obviously talk about our top 25 as well, which we've been doing over, I think we started about week 3-ish or week 4 here with C2C Live releasing our own top 25. So we'll put those up here in a little bit and go through what we have as our top 12 making the playoffs, Chris. But obviously the CFP released theirs was that Tuesday night. This has been a long week. I did just now realize that it is actually only Wednesday. What were your initial thoughts on those as I pull the rankings up and let the people know what it was or who was in the top 12?
I would say a lack of respect for the, which honestly might be right. Virginia is the highest seeded ACC team at 11. I think Notre Dame at 10 basically guarantees them in the playoff, assuming they went out, which they should, considering the schedule. Makes you wonder, like I've been on board with them being a playoff team. I've said it in the past, but it also does make you wonder, like, what incentives? I mean, now you could schedule bad teams and just lose the very beginning, right? If you just went out, which is what they've done. So like they kind of have that SEC vibe where it's like their best wins are just basically 2 losses by a total of 4 points. So it is interesting in that regard. And then I don't know. I think the rest of it's fairly straightforward. I think I agree with most all of it. I mean, I think Memphis would be the team that I would select as the G5 team. Otherwise, I think, the top guys are the top guys.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the bracket right now, and the main thing that I'll point out is, I guess me and Austin had kind of talked about this recently. I think it was on the show that me and him did where you were not here, Chris. We were talking about, we weren't sure if you had to, they had the conference winners as buys, and it looks like that has gone away because the one I'm looking at, am I looking at the right one here that has Texas A&M, Alabama, Ohio State, and Indiana all getting buys? So it looks like they're just going with the top 4 seeds, no longer have to win your conference to get that bye, which is a good thing, I think, overall. So for the people listening on the podcast, Ohio State is at number 1, Indiana at number 2, Texas A&M at 3, Alabama at 4, Georgia at 5, Ole Miss at 6, BYU at 7. You have Texas Tech at 8, Oregon at 9, Notre Dame at 10, Virginia at 11, and Memphis at 12. It's a little bit different than our overall rankings. I would personally, I know BYU is undefeated. My guess is, again, this is them projecting of it as of now. I would still have Oregon over BYU and probably Texas Tech. I mean, those two play each other here. What next? Is it this weekend?
It's this weekend, yeah.
So
I think it's game day, right?
Probably.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. I mean, if you're undefeated, you're undefeated. I think they probably just said, you know what, no one's going to get mad at us for doing that, right? And they'll have plenty of opportunities to either show up or, not show up and then be rightfully so backed up. But yeah, Oregon's kind of been interesting. They've killed a bunch of bad teams, and then they lost the one big game, right? One big game against Indiana, and the Penn State win doesn't look so cool anymore. So it is what it is, but I think we'll see enough games going forward where we'll feel good about where those two are ranked.
Yeah, I mean, they do have another big matchup this week against a ranked Iowa team. Obviously, that's a good defense. I would still expect them to beat Iowa, but I really want to see what they look like. 'Cause, I mean, again, I think I've heard some people kind of holding that Wisconsin game against them, but that was bad weather and everything. I don't know that I would hold too much against them. But yeah, the Indiana and even the Penn State, like you said, Penn State obviously was, I believe, the 3rd-ranked team when they played each other. So, like, it looked good on paper when you look at it from that side of things. But, again, Oregon was kind of running away with it. They let Penn State come all the way back. They go to overtime. Oregon ends up coming away and winning that game. And then, again, we look at what Penn State is now. Not quite the team we thought they were coming into the season. They also have a big couple matchups toward the end of the season with USC and Washington. So I think Oregon has a chance to really kind of bolster their overall resume, or however you want to word it. With that, same with Washington and USC. I mean, they're both two teams as well that we have in our top 25. They're currently both ranked as well in the top 25 for the CFP. I'll be very curious to see, if either one of them is able to pull off the upset over Oregon, because I would think with 3 losses, you're not getting in. So if USC and Washington both lose to Oregon, they'll both likely be eliminated. Not that either one of them was in there anyways, but still are two teams that could be trying to fight for that top 12. Because I think realistically, looking at like our rankings and then the rankings here, let me pull it back up. I'm sorry. I just got out of it.
It'll be interesting with, like, we're mentioning these Big Ten teams, you know, Indiana and Ohio State. If they win out, they'll make the Big Ten championship both, right? And I would assume then both are in. Then it becomes, all right, how many Big Ten teams are you putting in? Because if you're not going to get the extra game to get an extra win, are you getting 3? Are you getting 4?
I think
feels
so.
Unlikely. So it is an interesting idea of, there's no way a 3-loss Big Ten team is going to get in. We both agree there. But
I would think not. Yeah.
There might be a world where a 2-loss Big Ten team just doesn't get there, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, right now the closest one is USC at 19. And I mean, they have a lot of schools they have to jump. Now, again, I don't have a lot of the schedules in front of me, but there's a lot of SEC schools up there. Texas, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, Miami, obviously with their 2 recent losses here over the last couple of weeks, have dropped them down into the 18 spot. Georgia Tech, I think, again, there's those 3 ACC schools right there, right? Georgia Tech, Louisville, UVA. I think possibly 1, if not 2 of those could possibly fight to get in there, depending. I think Georgia Tech's going to have to win out and beat Georgia. But I think if they do that and because I don't think they play Louisville or UVA the rest of the year, right?
They don't play UVA. I don't know about Louisville.
Let me pull up there. They do not. So right now they have Boston College, Pitt, and then Georgia, which if Pitt wins again, but with the way they've been playing, that'll be a nice win for Georgia Tech. And then if they are able to beat Georgia and then go into the ACC championship game, I think whether win or lose, they'll be in because they beat Georgia. And I mean,
The tough part here is that Georgia Tech lost to a really bad team, NC State, a very average team. So then it becomes, well, if they lose I think there's a world where if they lose in the ACC championship, they could get squeaked out, even if they did beat Georgia, just because you play Wake Forest super close and you should have lost. You lose to NC State, you lose to probably UVA or Louisville, let's just say, for sake of argument. There's not, if your big win's Georgia, that's totally fine, but they're also lacking in some other areas, and I think they could get squeaked out. I mean, Virginia is 7-1 or 8-1 or whatever it is, and they're an 11 seed. They're the last qualified team in from the P4. So I really think ACC has almost no shot at two teams.
Yeah, I think this is obviously a very, very small sample size because we've only seen the 12-team format 1 year. But last year, we saw them not punish any of those teams that lost in the championship games and put them in. So that's why I'm saying I think if Georgia Tech, they have to win out. They've got to win that Georgia game. And if they do that and make it into the ACC championship game and even then lose, because that's only 2 losses on the resume, I think they will find a way. Because here's the thing, there's Texas, OU, I guess it's possible that both of them end up winning out the rest of their games. But if that happens, I don't think Oklahoma's a chance to make the SEC championship game. I could be wrong. Let's see where their standings are right now in the SEC. They have 2 losses. I'm sorry. They have 2 losses in conference. So there's no way they're making at this point the SEC championship game with what's left on the schedule, because you have Texas A&M and Alabama both undefeated. They do not play each other. So unless both of those teams lose too, because you have Texas, Ole Miss, and Georgia as well with all 1 losses ahead of Oklahoma as well. So I could see Georgia Tech jumping Oklahoma, even if Oklahoma wins out. They have a very tough schedule. Maybe they won't, because again, they got is that Missouri game this weekend? It is. That's next weekend, right?
Missouri plays A&M this weekend.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. That'll be it's in 2 weeks that they play Missouri. We'll see. There's 0 chance because OU plays Alabama. They do. Thank you, Thunder. I did not see that. Yeah. So they actually play each other next week. So yeah, if I imagine Alabama wins that game. That knocks Oklahoma effectively out of the race at that point. They're no longer in it. So Texas still has a chance. Utah is the other one that's right up there. I mean, I don't know what we're going to do with Vanderbilt. I think we're starting to realize they're frauds, but
they're just not going to. Yeah, they don't have the firepower, and that's fine. I mean, the fact that they're even in consideration at this point is pretty awesome. Good for them. But they're just. It is what it is. Here's a random question regarding playoffs. Texas is 7-2.
Yeah,
they have at Georgia versus Arkansas and versus A&M. Do you think it's better for them to beat Georgia and A&M but lose to Arkansas, or beat Arkansas and beat one of the other two? Like,
I think
what do you think is better for the resume?
I think if they lose any of those games, it doesn't matter. Even if they,
so?
Because they already have the one loss in conference, right? So I mean, if they get another one, they're not. I don't think they have any chance of making the SEC championship. But I think they've got to win all three. It
would be funny for them to beat number 3 A&M, number 5 Georgia, number 6 OU, number 9 Vandy, lose to Ohio State and not make it. I get it, 3 losses, but it's the Texas brand. You wonder if there could be some tomfoolery that comes around if that happens.
I mean, it's possible. Like I said, when you really look at this, I think the only teams that probably feel really good about where they're at is, I mean, would you even go through Georgia? Like, if I'm Ole Miss, I feel great about being ranked 6 because they get the Citadel, Florida, and Mississippi State. I don't see how you mess any of those up. And I think even if you lose to Florida, you're still in at an 8-2 SEC team. So I still think that they make, because what the other losses to Georgia in a game that they were playing again, their backup quarterback, and they took Georgia to the wire. So even if they get a bad loss, maybe if they lose the Citadel, the committee will keep them out. But I think regardless, if they only end up with 2 losses, they're in. Georgia, I mean, again, sure, you feel good about where you're sitting, but you do have 2 tough matchups. And, this week you get Mississippi State. Mississippi State has been what they've been. You don't want to look ahead. They've been 5. They're 5-4 though. They're not having a horrible season. A lot of people predicted them to not win a game in the SEC. But then you get Texas at home. And then again, we were just talking about that Georgia Tech game where I think Georgia Tech has to win out. Georgia Tech gave them issues last year in Thanksgiving. What was that? It was like the 8 overtime game where they looked like Georgia Tech was going to win it multiple times. And the smart, I believe it was the smart timeouts by Kirby Smart kind of saved them a couple times in those overtimes. So
yeah, there's definitely there's got to be some worry if you're Georgia. Georgia Tech's not a walkover by any means. I mean, even if you took away last year's game, like this is a very competent Georgia Tech team. This is a unique one that Georgia Tech forego the home gaming, and it's at Mercedes-Benz, which is a neutral field for them. But Georgia's the tricky part becomes if a 2-loss team like let's say Georgia at 2-loss goes into the championship at SEC championship and they lose. Yeah, did they get in it with 3 losses? Like that's where you get the weird SEC stuff where it's like, well they did lose to A&M in the championship. Like, would they be still in consideration?
It would be early, this is the second year of the 12-team playoff. But every year we've always had these moments or in the past throughout those other formats, as we've gone through a couple years of the 4-team format and everything, we saw the talks about, they won't put this team in because they didn't win their championship. I think that they had a bad loss the year that Ohio State lost to Purdue, but then I think it was, if I remember correctly, Wisconsin, they beat like 56-0. And it's like, well, there's no way they'll put them in over TCU or Baylor because both, they were in the Big 12 champion, or were co-Big 12 champions. The next thing you know, Ohio State jumps in. It was Ohio State again later on. I can't remember who it was. They jumped. It might have been Alabama, and they lost in that first round is all I remember. I think that was the game. I think that was the year they played Georgia in that great game with CJ Stroud, and they missed that kick.
They missed the field goal at the end.
Yeah, so like you see that happen. So like maybe that happens for Georgia here. What I'll say is, so Thunder said Notre Dame has to feel better than expected with their remaining schedule. Don't disagree. Pitt is a team that could really mess a lot of teams up, and they've been playing really good, and Notre Dame plays Pitt in 2 weeks. I think, though, they'll walk over Navy, but if Notre Dame's defense plays the way it did last week against Boston College, Pitt could beat them. And then we might actually be talking about Pitt as a team who can jump up because they're, 7-2 right now and 5-1 in the conference.
There's like 5 or 6 teams in the ACC that are in contention.
It's let's see, you got Duke, SMU, Louisville, Pitt, Georgia Tech, and Virginia. Obviously, Pitt, Georgia Tech play each other in a couple weeks. Who does SMU plays Louisville, so that will sort itself out there as well. It'll knock one of those two out because the only one who can afford a mistake right now is Virginia because they have 0 losses in conference.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is their one loss is NC State in what they consider non-conference game to keep it on the schedule. But I think that whole thing could get really shaken up. Virginia's schedule is enticing. I want to say it's Wake.
Oh,
Duke,
it's Wake,
Virginia
Duke,
Tech.
and Virginia Tech. So they've got a pretty easy
road to
possible championship. And good. Thunder says again, Pitt plays Notre Dame, Miami, and Georgia Tech 3 straight weeks. Again, but with the way, Heisman Heinschel has been, like, I don't know, man. Like, Pitt's been legitimately a good team. I don't know that they would knock off all 3 of those teams, but if they do, and I guess at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter if they lose to Notre Dame and Miami, but they beat Georgia Tech and they make it to the ACC championship game and win that.
They just got to get in and win.
If they, even with multiple losses, if that would put them at what 3? That put them at 4 losses. I don't know how the committee keeps out a 4-loss ACC championship team.
Well, you have to. You qualified in, right? But you get the last. You don't get the
12th spot, like Clemson last year. That Clemson got in because they won, and it is what it is. Like they played decent against Texas. It wasn't a horrible game. So it'll be interesting.
I want to pivot for a second. Looking at the matchups, maybe you don't have it in front of you, or maybe you do. Is there a game that you're like, wow, like this is like the stuff this is like why I'm a fan of the 12-team playoff? Because you get a game like this in round 1 or round 2.
Not Oregon, Texas Tech, I think could be fun, especially because Texas Tech, the lower seed, so I imagine that's. Oh wait, those are the home games, right? They do that, and I still think they should go home games for the first 2 rounds, but whatever. So Texas Tech, like having Oregon come into Texas, they played each other a couple years ago, didn't they?
I think it was 1 year ago or 2 years ago. Yeah, it was. I think it was a very high scoring game.
It was. I just remember Dan Lanning was there. That could be a fun game, especially if Baron Morton's been out, especially again with his. I don't want to say weak, but like as susceptible to big plays as we've seen Oregon's defense has been at times. That could be a very fun game, especially if Dante Moore comes in. Like Memphis, Georgia, sure. Like I could see that being a game where it's like, like if Memphis were actually just stringing a couple things together and maybe make it interesting. I mean, Notre Dame, BYU, I don't see it. I think Notre Dame's probably got the much better defensive players to kind of slow down Bachmeier and everything on that BYU offense. And honestly, same thing, Virginia, Ole Miss. Like Ole Miss's defense, I think would handle Virginia fairly well.
Yeah, I think the first round is not as appealing because I think like Notre Dame, BYU would probably be fairly straight up matchup. But like it doesn't feel like a sexy game like this Oregon, Texas Tech would. I think like going around deeper, I think Texas Tech, Ohio State would be and then you can never get enough. I mean, as much as I knock the SEC and hate on them, like Georgia, Bama is a literal instant classic.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think if you were to go with who we think would win all those matchups, I would say Georgia, we'll say Texas Tech, Ole Miss, and then Notre Dame. Notre Dame, Indiana, that's a big matchup right there. Like that would be a fun matchup as well. I think Indiana would win it. I think Indiana would probably be the biggest spread of the weekend. I would think Indiana versus Notre Dame.
You think so? I think it would be A&M versus if Virginia win for sure.
I think Ole Miss wins.
Yeah, I think Indiana.
Well, maybe Ohio State, Texas Tech, because of the way Ohio State's defense has played most of the year, that they would do that as well. Or those two would be close because I think Alabama, Georgia, and I think Texas A&M, Ole Miss would be like a 3.
It'd be
maybe
3 or less.
Point spread. They would not be those big. So it would come down to that Ohio State, Texas Tech, and Indiana, Notre Dame game. But yeah, I mean, I think again. All those would be good. Because, again, if you go Georgia, Alabama, I would think, again, sure, this might be a little bit of a homer's call. I would think it's Texas Tech, Ohio State would win. But then, again, you get that before the national championship game. You then get Ohio State versus possibly Alabama or Georgia. Oh, look at this. He just wanted to come in here and
we brought up Pitt.
Ty Simpson's biggest hater has entered the show, and then he hides himself. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's going to come in here and talk poorly about Ty Simpson. I'm his biggest offender for those of you new to the show. But yeah, I mean, getting Ohio State versus either one of those in right before that would still be what, the semifinals? So not even the that would be the
the quarterfinals.
Quarterfinals.
Semifinals. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean.
This is going to be some really good football. You get a lot. We've talked about in the past. It does feel like it felt like originally like a top 2 teams and then just a clear group of great options from like maybe 3 to 7. I think we see that here. I mean, we're not going to see the specific ordering and not to get super in the weeds about it, but like Ohio State's not going to be 1 and Indiana 2. One of them would be 1 would be 3 or 4 or something like that. But I really do hope we get a Georgia-Bama pre-championship matchup or like a, Ohio State Indiana rematch and before. It would be really fun and interesting too. Especially with like how good A&M's been, obviously. An A&M game against the likes of like an Oregon or a Texas Tech would be fun. Like I love the kind of the random conference matchup that you don't typically see. A&M Ole Miss would be cool, but I think like an A&M against a Texas Tech would be really fun for sake of difference.
Yeah. I think when you said that, like I'm looking at now, I wonder if Indiana the worst, I think they would fall. If they go undefeated, if they lose to, I think even if they lose by double digits to Ohio State, I think Indiana only falls to like 3. And so they can keep Ohio State and Indiana on opposite sides of the bracket, I would think is what they would do.
I would imagine you get enough teams beating up on each other behind them that they could argue dropping them to 3. Because otherwise it's 4 and then they're on the same side. And then otherwise 5 would be the same side. And then 6 would be different. So yeah, I think if they wanted to do that, they'd have to do 3. But inconceivable, as long as it's not like a blowout, I think you could do that.
Yeah. Which is, I just realized too, with like the 2 Big 12, coming into the year, I was not expecting 2 Big 12 teams to make. I think I picked 2 when me and Austin first did the show. I think because I had Arizona State winning, and I think I had Utah in as well. But speaking of Austin, I was going to bring this up. With Virginia in there, I actually think I'd rather see Pitt in with the way that offense has been playing in the playoffs. You too?
What's up, guys?
Hey, guy. What's up? Did you hear my intro?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
No,
well, HR called. So just if you get it, I apologize. It has something to do with like the super moon and how, it's too big. And that's what she said. And there's a whole thing. Anyways, what are your thoughts here on it? We're talking about the CFB. For those of you listening, if you didn't know the dulcet tones there of when Austin Nace has joined us on the show, what are your thoughts about the playoff bracket? We're talking about the first round. We think kind of the only good game might be that Texas Tech Oregon game, and then kind of moving forward how some of those matchups line up. Again, we understand this probably will not stay the way that it is now with the way the schedule plays out, with some of the way these teams will be playing each
other. Yeah, I'm trying to pull the bracket up now just to have it in front of me so I can reference it. I was not that prepared. I'm very sorry.
Neither was I. When as soon as you were like, "Hey, I might not be," I'm like, "Oh, Chris, you want to host?" I don't know what I'm doing here.
Austin, did you have any initial first takes when you saw it? Any first thoughts from just the top 12?
Honestly, right now the rankings themselves felt right. I think we're far enough into the season where I'm a little less concerned about always having a team that beat another team ranked in that order. I saw a lot of folks a little up in arms about Miami below Notre Dame, and I forget what the other one was as well. But I think we've got enough data points now where I actually really like what they look like now, and obviously things will change, and we'll see if that's still the case. It does seem, I think people were talking about this. It seems like, and maybe you guys talked about this too, that it seems a little more data focused this year, which I think is nice. There aren't any like weird teams that everyone's like, well, the numbers, say this team is crap, except for Virginia, but what can you do there? I mean, only so much you can do. So I actually really like where it's at right now. We'll see what happens the next couple of weeks. Maybe it'll make some more difficult decisions for them, which, whatever.
Do we just want to jump into our top 25 so we can kind of just reference that and we'll move into other topics instead of saving that for the end of the show?
Sure.
All right. So here are our top 25 here for week 12. Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Georgia, Oregon, and Ole Miss all stay in the same spot. So for us, our top 7 don't move at all. They have all kind of stayed in there from last week. I think, again, it's fairly close to what the AP and the playoff predictions have as well. I don't have any issues with that. We had Texas Tech coming in at 8, moving up. Notre Dame moved up to 9. BYU up to 10. Then, as Austin was just talking about, yes, I understand. I just see that I misspelled Louisville. That's my bad. Austin just talking about teams beating each other. Virginia did technically beat Louisville in an overtime game a couple weeks ago. I believe it was at the beginning of this month. In my opinion, Louisville has better wins, but at the end of the day, we have them ranked one spot ahead of Virginia right now, 11. Virginia at 12, Oklahoma at 13, Utah at 14, Georgia Tech at 15. Texas jumping back up here at 16. Vanderbilt dropping with their loss to 17. Miami dropping all the way down to 18 with their loss. Missouri moving up to 19. Memphis moving up to 20. USC moving up to 22. Michigan up to 20. USC up to 21. Michigan up to 22. Washington up to 23. Tennessee dropping all the way down to 24 with their loss. And USF staying in at the 25 spot, though Chris did have Iowa ranked there at the 25 spot. Jumping in, but I did not. I ranked Iowa lower than that 25 spot, so we kept USF there. And obviously, if you were looking at this, if this was our projections for the playoffs, you would remove actually Virginia out of that 12 spot and put Memphis in as the highest rated G5. So pretty much the same teams overall. The only difference would be us putting in Louisville for Virginia, Austin.
I think shout out to us for the most part getting they beat them and them beat that A beat B, B beat C. I think we did a good job here, guys. So congratulations to us.
It was tricky around 21, 22, 23.
That's the interesting grouping there. But I think at that spot, I think it feels right. I did not get mine in time. I would also have ranked Iowa probably over Tennessee. So that might have knocked Tennessee out. I don't know what the number crunch would have looked like there, but not that I think they're like great, but at this point, the resume is probably better than Tennessee. I think the interesting one, I think there's a real chance in 2 or 3 weeks, Georgia Tech is not on this list.
We were just talking about their schedule.
Yeah. Were you? Okay. Yeah. I think they lose. Bias. I think they lose to Pitt, and I think they probably lose to Georgia. At least.
We said basically that this was not an easy road. They just needed to get to the Georgia game essentially unscathed, and that they likely be in the ACC championship. There's so many teams up there. I'm not going to act like I know the tiebreakers. But yeah, that would have created an interesting scenario if they would have gotten in with the win over Georgia.
Yeah,
but very hard schedule. Not the UVA schedule to round it out.
Yeah, Austin, do you think if, again, I know this is two really big ifs here because, the, Heisman Heinschel there leading your Pitt Panthers, but if Georgia Tech were to beat them and Georgia and then lose in the ACC championship game, do you think there's any way that they are kept out, especially with the win against Georgia there at the end of their schedule?
No, I think that would probably get them in just depending on what happens in some of these other matchups. I think you'd have to hope if you're them that that Oklahoma loses at least once more. Like some of these real fringy ones, I think you'd have to hope that they lose another game. You probably have to hope that Texas loses to A&M. You just want the top couple of teams to keep winning and then everybody else probably to drop one. And I think at that point you'd feel pretty good about it, which kind of sounds far-fetched as you say it, but most of these teams, except for Virginia, really have at least one difficult game left on the schedule. There are chances for pretty much all of these teams to drop one, whether it's in a conference championship. They don't necessarily factor a loss in there negatively, but I think all these schools will probably play a tough one the rest of the season. So I think it's possible for sure.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this. Funny enough, Ole Miss and Virginia are feeling great right now because the rest of their schedule is a walk in the park. And Virginia will obviously, if they win out, go to the ACC championships game. So the one team you have to feel great about is if you're Lane Kiffin, you are for the most part locked into the playoff now as long as you take care of business because you're not going to the SEC championship game. You have Citadel, Florida, and I forgot who the last school is as they play, but they should beat them as well. So you have a very manageable schedule.
Not a gimme. They lost to Florida last year, and this Florida team, they didn't win last weekend, but they also didn't look like they'd given up yet either. That's a very classic, we'll drop this game.
But they're missing a couple guys at receiver now. Dallas Wilson's out for the year, and I think Nate just said that Trey Wilson's out at least this week.
Thank you, Thunder. Mississippi State. Here's the thing. I said this to Chris and Austin. I don't know if you disagree. And again, they're at 8-1. They're the 6th ranked school right now for the CFP. We have them as the 7th. I think if they lose to Florida or Mississippi State, they're still in as a 2-loss SEC school. There's just no, because their other main loss will be that Georgia game. But again, they took Georgia to the wire with a backup quarterback. They have some impressive wins on their schedule, including the Oklahoma win. Now, Oklahoma's going to drop more. Like, Oklahoma's schedule is brutal. They play – their last 3 games are all ranked teams. It is Missouri. They have Texas A&M coming up, and I forgot who – and Alabama. So, like, they're probably going to be out of the top 25 by the time, they play. So, I just don't see any way that Ole Miss doesn't make it in as a 10-2 SEC team. I think they can lose one.
Find a way, buddy. Lane Kiffin will find a way.
I've been saying this year he might prove to us that he is not quite as fraudulent as he has been. So I think there's a shot.
Can we talk about a fraudulent team really quick?
Is it Vanderbilt?
Did you guys already talk about this again?
I'm just sorry. Mentioned. I'm just glad that the story is over. We did kind of brushed over.
I was like nap trapped, essentially, not prepared for this on a rocking chair. So I was not listening. That score was extremely flattering to Vanderbilt, right? Like, they never looked like they were in that game.
They lost by 3, Austin. That's on the road. That's a good thing in the SEC.
It's just it was the most fraudulent. Like, I don't think they're a top 25 team in the country. They're a cool story, good for them. I'm not rooting against them. I just don't at the same time want to pretend that a team is, a playoff contending team when it's just very clearly not the case with what they're putting out there on the field right now. I mean, what Vanderbilt, they would go into the playoff and get pumped by pretty much any team that would be in there, right? They're just not strong enough along the trenches. Like, they're just going to get dominated in those areas.
I would agree with that. I would argue that they are a 20 to 25 ranked team. But like, only because, like, are you really, like, is Michigan really better than Vandy? Like, I'm a Michigan fan.
Think so.
I don't.
Yes.
Like, what does Michigan have? Like, their run game is going to be a little bit weaker with Haynes out for a while. Like, they don't throw the football. Like, they're literally just Vanderbilt with a quarterback that doesn't run compared to Pavea. Yeah. Like, I don't know if Michigan's all that more impressive. Tennessee, I think you could argue Tennessee is fraudulent.
Well, they play each other.
They play.
That's both their final.
But they do play, right? I would argue that the 20 to 25, like 23, 24 is probably the perfect ranking for them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to hate on them as much. I do think that they deserve to be in the top 25, but I don't think, which is something we've talked about too, right, over the past couple of weeks, is like, I actually don't think we ever had them. We might have had them at 10, but I don't think we ever had them higher than that, where I think they were higher than that for some of the other, whatever is the AP poll or whatever some of the other ranking services were there for that. And we just didn't have them that high. And again, it is a cool story and it's fun for them. And, I'm happy for Diego Pavia. I think that also with that loss, especially if they end up losing Tennessee, probably do we think that takes him out of the Heisman race as well? Again, I don't think any of us said he was going to win it, but like maybe even an invite to New York.
He was living just Texas. Because of he was just living there because of the story of like Vandy being like 7-1 or whatever. He can't get there with a 9-3 record. Like, it's cool, but it ain't that cool.
This is the kind of year where maybe somebody could, though, right? I just don't think it's him.
All right, Austin, me and Chris were kind of talking about 2 of these teams in the bottom there, the 21 through 25, but I'm going to put all 3 of the Big Ten schools in there because Michigan still technically has a shot. They kind of, they have 2 losses, Chris, but they do play the Ohio State, their last game. I'm not 100% sure who their other game is, but obviously Washington has, from my opinion, has a fairly easy schedule outside of that Oregon game. But I think Oregon can still lose one game and get in, but they play USC and Washington. If there's one of those 3 Big Ten schools that you think could sneak into the back end of the playoffs, because I think at this point we feel pretty safe that Ohio State, Indiana are for sure locked in, and I feel pretty good about Oregon. Do you think one of those 3 at the bottom could sneak in?
So Michigan has Northwestern and Maryland on the road, and then Ohio State.
So it's gonna come down to that. I mean,
yeah, I mean, if they win all three of those, yeah, that would be interesting.
I think they would sneak in right at the end there because, like you said, like Oklahoma is going to drop back, Vandy will drop back, like Georgia Tech could easily drop back. Texas has A&M and Georgia. We're going to see a lot of teams just fall back just because of the fact that they have hard opponents left. Missouri without their quarterback. So I think you could see them sneak in at 12.
Well, I mean, Missouri could very easily drop this week. They have a tough matchup this week, against. I mean, is it Texas A&M this week or is that Oklahoma? I think it's Texas A&M. We just talked about this, and I forgot again who they played.
You did this the last episode.
Yeah,
that game. We need that game to happen so we don't have to worry about it anymore.
I just want to talk about Matt Zoller's playing Texas A&M and Oklahoma. Whatever order he plays them, I need to talk about it.
Here's a scenario. I mean, USC's last 4 games here are Northwestern. Northwestern's not the gimme we thought they were, but I would pick USC to win that game. They have Iowa. Again, not a gimme, but I think just based on those 2 teams, I would think USC should win that. They have UCLA at the end of the season, and they have Oregon. If they win out 10-2 USC, 10-2 Oregon, with USC, like they're another team that I think if they win out, like they're in. Because I think they would have that head-to-head, which would be like at the very end of the season would be incredibly important for their resume as well.
They're in the kind of the unique Ole Miss scenario where they could win out and like there's no shot they make the playoff because Ohio State and Indiana both could win out and they'd be undefeated and be in. I don't know what Ohio State's got. They got Michigan obviously at the end, but Michigan can't do that. Michigan wins out, they're in the Big Ten championship because they'd be knocking out Ohio State from that picture. But USC is unique in that you went out, you get no extra game, and you're 10-2 sitting pretty.
I mean, Ohio State, the only way I see them losing up until that Michigan game is if Ryan Day does the old, looking past somebody. They have Purdue, UCLA, and Rutgers. Rutgers and UCLA at home, they go to Purdue, which I mean, Purdue has hurt them in the past, so maybe. But again, I still think if Ohio State one loss, they're
which
fine.
Which one would they lose of those 3?
If they were to lose one?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd surprise you. I think Rutgers would be the one.
Day's had Shiano's number for the most part. I don't think.
Yeah, but those past Rutgers teams feel way different than this one. Not that I think this one's all that special, but this one's definitely a different team than it used to be. They can actually throw the football, which the past ones couldn't.
I mean, the easy answer is that Ryan Day loses again, and then we all hear the talk about is he going to get fired again because he's lost to Michigan for 4 straight years. So that's the easy loss on their. He's
testing the theory of would you win every other game but lose to your rival, win a championship? Do you keep your job or do you?
As someone who is an Ohio State Buckeyes fan, I would love. I hate saying this out loud. There's a part of me that would love to see the Discord because I guarantee you there would be such a loud group that would be like, fire him. I don't care that he won the national championship last year. He's lost to Michigan 4 years in a row. He needs to be gone and just fire him. I promise you it'll happen. But I do think out of those 3, if you were to go through what they have left, I do think USC probably has the best because of what their resume would look like. Again, I think Washington has, in my opinion, the easiest road out of those 3 because all they have left is Oregon, and it's the final game, and they do have it at home. So I do think that there's a chance if they were able to find a way, even if it was just like a field goal kick at the end of the game to win that, I think that they would find possibly a way to get in. I think that they've had a pretty decent season. What's their biggest loss was the Ohio State game. They were, the Michigan game as well. That was 24-7 or something like that, I think. So, I mean, they lost fairly similar to Ohio State as well. I think Washington would have a chance to get in.
Yeah, Big Ten's got some weird scenarios that could happen because Washington could win out. Oregon could win out minus that one game against Washington. Both would be 10-2. And not in the Big Ten championship likely. There isn't a level of like, okay, what would they do? They can't put 4 or 5 Big Ten teams in. So you wonder what would happen in that scenario.
I think that they wouldn't be against putting in 4. Again, I think it just depends on how the rest of the season shakes out. Because as you mentioned, like the way that some of those teams in the middle there are all playing each other, we're going to lose a bunch. Like some of those SEC teams, like again, you have Oklahoma and Texas all the way up there. Oklahoma and Texas's schedule, though, the rest of the way, we could be looking at both those teams having 4 losses in a couple weeks. There's no way they're ranked. Maybe they'll still be in the top 25, but they'll be like 24 and 25. They will not be up there in the 13 to 16 range anymore. So then that bumps up a USC or a Michigan and a Washington going into those final weeks. And I think, again, if Oregon stays where they're at, whether it's USC, whether it's Washington, who maybe pulls off a win against a number, or what is it, 6 or...
There we go. You kind of cutting in and out there. I'm not going to lie.
My back. I froze, didn't I?
You're back now. Yeah, you're back. Austin and I were just
like, I was saying that I think they could, if either one of those two.
Tell if it was me. I was like,
if either one
of those two
moves
real subtly, I'm like,
no. I can never tell if it's me or somebody else. I never do confidently.
It was probably it was all me. Yeah, I think all 3 of those have a chance, but we'll see. Again, USC, multiple big games coming up. Washington again. I think it could come down to that final week, depending on what. If Oregon loses to USC, I don't think that game is going to be. I guess Washington could effectively knock Oregon out of the playoff race if they were to beat them, if Oregon were to lose to USC. But it's a lot of games ahead of us. I think Ole Miss, Ohio State, Indiana, probably feeling the best right now out of everybody about where their playoff. Yeah, Notre Dame as well. Well, Notre Dame gets Pitt, and I just said that defense plays the way they did against Boston College. I think Pitt has a chance. If Notre Dame loses one more game, they're done for. I don't think there's any way they get in. So. All right, let's speaking of being done for, Hugh Freeze. He was fired from Auburn earlier this week, Austin. I don't know that I was expecting it. Obviously, Auburn has not been good. There's been a lot of setup coming into the season with the way the recruiting classes have been, the wide receivers that they've brought in and everything, kind of setting up for what they have talked about as 2025 being their year. That obviously did not happen. What are your kind of thoughts on him being let go? What's next for Freeze, Auburn, whichever way you want to take it?
I feel a little differently than I think you just said. Like, I did expect this, especially after you can't lose to Kentucky and only put up 3 points. I mean, you just can't do that. At least like not while you're losing other games. Like, if that's a one-off, then whatever. But that's a classic like final straw. What I will say that I think I think is a little different than the national discourse is like, I just think if he had gotten one of his quarterback decisions there right, we wouldn't be having this discussion. Because I think other than that, he actually did an okay job. Like, they brought in good recruiting classes. The defense is awesome. If he had just gotten one of the quarterbacks, like even remotely right, I'm not saying it had to even be a home run. If he did a double on one of these QBs that he brought in, I don't think we'd be having this conversation. I think they'd be right around 500. I think you can, or maybe even a little bit above it. I think you can convince boosters and ADs and admin and whoever else you need to convince that things are trending in the right direction. So, I mean, I just think that was ultimately his downfall. And it doesn't help when things aren't going well. Because we talked about this with Brian Kelly, if you're a dick, like it doesn't help your cause. It just ends up kind of being another tally in the negative column. And he's one of those as well. So, I mean, yeah, not surprising. I mean, we can talk about how good of a job Auburn is. I think there are some good things about it. I just think it's one of those classic little brother jobs that's just really difficult to live up to what the expectations are of the fan base and the admin.
Yeah, I would agree that after the Kentucky game, it was toast. I think like it was a little bit more 50-50 before that game, and then that just sealed it. And like you kind of mentioned, like off the field, people were just tired of the old we're so close. Just people need to be patient. We're so, like, he kept saying it. And I think at a certain point I was like, all right, man, like nobody cares anymore. Like, have you entered 2025? There's no such thing as patience. Ultimately, when you look at the team, like the quarterback play was awful. The offensive line play was even worse. Like, it just was consistent theme. And sometimes you just invest your, I don't know, money, you could just literally say, in the wrong spots. Like, would they have been better off spending $1 million on a left tackle or a right guard or something? Like, yeah, like, sorry, Eric Singleton, but like, what good were you doing me out wide if we don't have time to throw you the football?
It's so like that classic Jamar Chase Penny Sewell meme where it was like the the block with the ball, any receiver. Yeah, that is.
They spent a lot of money to keep their receiver group, and it's one of the most impressive. We all talked about it all offseason, but like it literally did not matter. Just did not matter. And Jeremiah Cobb was a good fill-in at running back. Did not matter because the offensive line was so bad. Quarterback play was bad. Defense, I mean, what's really striking is that the defense is incredible, and they couldn't find any way to create points. And yeah, I mean, 500 is just not really going to cut it. And when you're consistently below it, it's definitely not going to cut it. Like you didn't even get like a big win to help save him a little bit, right? Like if he would have beaten Bama last year or something, right? Like he could have bought himself maybe a little bit more time. Yeah. Couldn't do that either. So it'll be interesting to see the route they go. I think I saw Summerall as the favorite.
That's
a bit higher, I think.
Which makes sense because if I could be wrong, Summerall's more of a defensive-minded head coach, correct?
That's his background, I
want to say yes.
Which typically we see like teams go kind of the opposite. Hugh Freeze, the quote unquote, QB whisperer offensive guy, I would imagine, because unfortunately it's all the same names that we've mentioned. Everybody has mentioned with like it's Alex Golesh, it's John Summerall, Kenny Dillingham, James Franklin. I still don't understand why Jimbo Fisher keeps getting. I think his agent is just very well paid and doing a good job of putting his name in. I don't know why. I guess so. Is that his agent? I honestly don't know.
Pretty sure he's a Sexton guy, and the Sexton guys, whether they're actually like he can just leverage all of them off each other at a certain point. Like he just has enough of these guys as his clients that
he's got.
Sure, he just gives Jimbo clients like, hey, like just so you know, I'm going to float your name out as a guy for this job. Like, you cool with me doing that? I'm going to get this extra guy, this other guy, a cool extra, $1.5 million to re-sign wherever he is, and yeah, it's so gross.
I would think they have to go some sort of southeastern ties.
Yes.
Like Summerall has. They went the
Brent
Brian
Key
Horse.
would be perfect.
Brent Key would be incredible.
Summerall would be probably my second choice.
They went Harsin, which was an out of left field West Coaster.
Well, there's supposedly that was
from the jump.
That was like the whole during that one, like the whole kind of like booster takeover thing of like two different whatever it was groups fighting within Auburn on who to hire kind of thing, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, it did not end well, obviously. They have to get some sort of Southeastern coach. They're probably scarred from the fact that they brought in a Western guy that tried to do things a different way.
Yeah, the only different names in here, I mean, you just mentioned Brent Key, which we've talked about as well. Eli Drinkovich, which is now getting some rumors about possibly going to Penn State, which I think is interesting. I don't know if he would actually
feels lateral
do that.
to me. Like I don't know. Unless you're just getting a big raise, I don't really understand that.
But the coach that I've not seen mentioned with any of the other jobs, and he is being mentioned with this one, is Memphis's Ryan Silverfield. So that one is an interesting one. I think that'd be a big step up for Silverfield. I don't know that I'd hate it. He's an offensive guy though, so I don't know if they would again go the same route, but it's an interesting name, at least, to be mentioned.
It'd be fine. I think Memphis is a big program. It takes them to the playoff. Like there's some oomph to it. And then I think Dillingham's been mentioned because of that little connection. I think they even asked him about just in general being tied to some big schools.
They did. I watched the interview today.
Yeah, it was. He had a pretty funny quote about going from
the shit house. Oops, sorry.
That's
what he said, Austin. I'm just quoting him. Yeah.
Yeah, crap house to castle, basically. And what a great quote type guy.
Kenny Dillingham's the man. Him and Dan Lanning, I think, are the two most fun coaches in college.
Do you see he gave his team the week off?
I did, yeah. After that, yeah. Again, he's.
I guess you could do that when you're 5-3 or whatever. But
when you're starting quarterbacks done, there's no
starting quarterbacks. They're starting Jeff Sims. Chris, cut the guy some slack. Hey, right? They won a game with Jeff
28
Sims.
rushing yard. Jeff Sims.
What?
I said he ran for like 228 or something, right? I mean, it's pretty incredible.
What is it? Who was making the joke? I think it was Cover 3 was making the joke about him whipping out a playbook from the Jordan Travis days at Florida State and just having his quarterback run to get points. I mean, Jeff Sims is horrible. He still found a way to win that game. All I'm saying. Kenny Dillingham's the man. It's my guy.
I real quick.
I
wanted to ask you guys, why do we think that that Hugh Freeze didn't try to roll Deuce Knight out there to save his job? This is the thing that I cannot comprehend about what happened there. Because if you're on, and maybe he's just so arrogant that he didn't think that this was a possibility. The way things were going, I don't know how you don't think that. But you do what Sunbelt Billy did last year. You say, here's my 5-star quarterback. I'm going to rule him out there. I'm going to hope that he flashes, and I can hope that buys me another year with him and say, look, we do have our guy. I just that's we're close. We just need a little more time.
I don't know. I was going to ask you about Deuce Knight as well. I would imagine that maybe he's not what people think he is.
Maybe he's been terrible.
He's just not ready. I don't know.
I mean, he came in as the super raw guy, right? Like, wasn't he crazy raw? Like, I don't know. Like, this is the SEC, right? Like,
I mean, Ashton Daniels is effectively playing with no quarterback. Like, he at least can run. Like, just tailor the playbook to.
Ashton Daniels can run. It's the same thing without maybe for one, he's arrogant from the jump. Hugh Freeze is arrogant. So that's definitely in play. But I think he looked at they won against Arkansas with Ashton Daniels. And I think he looked at it like, Kentucky, I can win with Ashton Daniels. He's a proven runner in college. I like running guys. We can make it happen. It just did not happen. You roll out Deuce Knight, and what kind of bad decisions is he going to make? That type of thing, and you could lead to big mistakes.
Scored 3 points at halftime. Think about. I don't know. I don't know why that was not a play. That was. I don't know. Just didn't make any sense to me.
I don't disagree with Austin because don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that DJ Lagway was considered as raw as Deuce Knight, but there was questions about whether DJ Lagway should ever see the field as a true freshman as well. And Billy threw him out there and was just like, well, go get him, kid. I mean, the one thing with Deuce Knight is he is a decent rusher. He does have an electric arm. Maybe he just finds a spark. Like maybe the offense just gets a spark of him just chunking the ball down
Jeff
to the wide receivers. Yeah.
Just run him.
I don't know. My guess would be maybe he's just not as good as maybe he was. I do think the arrogant part goes into it. What was it? Some of the boosters came out, recently and said we thought that he should have gone after this guy, and said he went after Peyton Thorne, and then kept saying Peyton Thorne was his guy, even though clearly Peyton Thorne was not that good. So, yeah, I don't know. I think you have to be a little bit arrogant as a head coach, though. I mean, you have to think that you know what you're doing and you're making the right calls and all that other stuff. So I don't know. I would imagine. Do you think, Austin, because we have not seen well, right now I've not seen a lot of players decommitting from the Auburn class, but do you think that they end up losing any of these high-end guys, any of these wide receivers, or possibly Deuce Knight?
Jace Matthews says, I liked Mr. Freeze, but I liked Freeze, but whatever is good for the program. Great quote. Great quote. I think anything's in play, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, in the year 2025, I don't know how many players realistically are committing to a coach. I think they're committing to, at a certain level, a number on a piece of paper. I mean, I as long as you kind of get a pretty solid hire coming in, I would have to imagine at least a good chunk of these guys are going to stay. Especially because with the money stuff now, I would imagine a lot of allocation has already been done for next year, more or less.
Right.
There's just like, these are all made up numbers. Texas is going to do $30 million next year, and they've already got 27 of it allocated or whatever. They can't really go poach a bunch of guys. I mean, I don't know how much extra cash is going to be floating around out there for them to go find other homes. So I'd imagine some of them stay.
Maybe that's a way to do it in the future.
Chris?
Like maybe the route is save some money for when people leave or want to for these coach firings, right? Because then you have more money than everybody to play with.
The other thing is, I don't know, like some schools do a bigger allocation to recruiting, and some of them, really don't. Yeah. So for some of them, they might have money on the table, but they just have to debate, do we want these to be portal dollars or freshman dollars? That's kind of some of the discussion at some of these schools too. Like I know Penn State's like a stingy one on the freshman stuff. They're more portal based. There's a couple of schools that are a little more, heavy, like upperclassmen retention / portal. Chris,
why did I forget his name? Hugh Freeze made his name at Liberty. It's what helped get him this job at Auburn. Do you think he goes back to the G5, or do you think he tries to get
That
another
feels a little
P4?
unfair. He had a career before Liberty.
Sure.
There's a ton of openings. I would imagine he could find one of the P4 ones that are open. Now, which one would be like a good fit? He might be one of those domino effect ones where he goes to a job that is about to open up because they filled a different job. That guy did. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think of the ones that are open right now, like, which one does he really vibe with? Would he get hired again in the SEC? Like, would Arkansas take him?
I think the stink is
Arkansas
too much on him right now. I think he'll have to step outside the SEC. I think it'll have to be a step down.
There's a little bit of a stench, I think. Like, I think so. Then I think it becomes all right. Well, somebody takes the Arkansas job, it opens up a job, and that's what he takes, type of thing.
Who are some schools that don't mind hiring scumbags? I mean, that's probably your starting point. Like, just quite frankly, right off the bat, you know, if Dave Arand is out of Baylor, they might sniff around.
Is it bad that we all thought Baylor from the jump?
I mean, I went to Liberty first, but you know, yeah, Baylor's probably up there too.
Yeah, you just that's the kind of like starting point on the list that I would start with and go from there.
All right. Any final thoughts on Hugh Freeze?
An interesting opening that we have not talked about on this show, but as the year goes on, I think more and more is going to be open on a mutual parting of ways. Colorado.
I was gonna say Colorado as well, because part of me is like, what kind of like hot seat is he on right now?
I don't think he's on the hot seat. I think his health is not great. I think that is certainly detracting from the job for him, and I don't mean that as like a criticism. I just think it probably is.
He's got serious health issues. It would be completely reasonable for him to not be up to what he was in the past because of it. And there's nothing wrong with it.
Kids aren't there. Their recruiting class next year is embarrassing. And I don't know, like, they've been so bad the past couple of weeks. Like, you're going to go back to kind of the year one portal haul, which was not good outside of his kids. Like, I think there's a real scenario there where we just kind of get to an end of the season and everyone, you know, all monies will go where they've been and that's it. And we'll call it a deal. And that would not shock me. And they feel like the kind of school that would go after a Hugh Freeze to me.
That's fair. I was about to say, like, not trying to be facetious, but why is that exciting? Because I don't know that Dion would step back into coaching, at least not immediately. And I don't know who would take over Colorado.
I think if Dion would be like done. Like, it's not like Dion would be going to, because people are like, maybe he'll take the Auburn job. He's like, I'm like, no, like if he's done at Colorado, I don't think he's going to take another job. So, but Colorado would be interesting because I think they built more interest in the program. Now, how much of that, like the groupie Dion folks would still be tuning in if Dion's not there? You know, you kind of have to, I'm sure there's ways to game that out, you know, some sort of, you know, internal polling numbers that they could figure that, you know, try to estimate that and figure out what that would look like. But I think that would be, you know, a moderately interesting spot where the expectations aren't super high year over year. You can kind of build every 3 or 4 years there. That kind of feels like what more Hugh Freeze is, as opposed to like an every year reload kind of guy. I don't know. That's the kind of school that I think would make sense for a guy like Hugh Freeze.
What kind of school is Maryland?
Academically, it's very strong from what I hear. No, I don't know. I mean, they've allegedly have the Under Armour money, but I've heard that has been pulled back a little bit over the past couple of years. How true that is, I don't know. I know they've got a couple of big name recruits coming in next year. They feel to me like they have like their 15 million and they spend it on a couple guys, and then they just pray that the rest of the roster kind of the chips fall where they may, and that they can kind of hit the jackpot in any given year. That's what Maryland feels like to me. I think the odds of them having a run in a season would have to be like this year's Virginia, essentially, where the schedule just falls like totally perfect and you catch somebody off guard early in the season and then you're kind of rolling from there. That's kind of what, I mean, they're not a top 50 job, I wouldn't think, not top 40. There's even G5 jobs that I think are better jobs, quote unquote, than them, right?
Yeah, I would agree. I feel like they're just an average like P4 team to go to, and maybe bottom like below average to an extent. I just saw that, Ethan thinks that's a great spot for James Franklin. I'm like, dude, there's no way he would go to that job. Like that is like such a clear step down from what he could get. I just was curious that
they can't be spending that much on the coaching staff there either, right? Like Loxley kind of feels like one of those guys that will just get you there, and you only have to pay him like, I don't know what he like $4 million, or you're not dropping 7.5 or whatever on some guy. Like they just feel like a school that just isn't spending what maybe they could if they really kind of tried to push their boundaries. To me,
I have something else very random, and I saw this and I can't unsee it, so you have to see it as well. Do you know how many points Wisconsin has scored in conference?
22.
27.
Jeez.
They're averaging 5 points a game in conference.
Do you buy that they're like not
firing
to
Fickell?
the point where they are like seriously considering firing Fickell?
I could buy it. And the only reason why I think is at this point, there are schools that have to say to themselves, it's way better to save, like wait another year, save on any potential buyout, and just say, you know what, like if we get ourselves in a coaching situation here, we are not getting a good option. So why would we fire a coach just to be the 12th best option? Which felt like a Maryland thing, but that parted ways mutually. To me, Wisconsin is, if they don't do it, it's because they just want to wait a year and hope that they're a better looking prospect for coaching options.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're Fickell, right, you can sell it on quarterback injuries, like, we brought these guys in and then we're down to our whatever third string quarterback, and maybe you can sell that as that's why your team has not been as good.
I don't think the bones of that team are awful, but I just think it's really difficult to win with like blatantly negative EV every drop back quarterback play at the P5, P4 level, especially in the Big Ten and the SEC. I mean, we just talked about Hugh Freeze, and that's ultimately why. Like, I don't think the Wisconsin team is. I mean, they're not good. Like, if they had a competent QB, I still don't think they'd be good, but they wouldn't be embarrassing either.
Yeah.
So I also think that is a selling point if you're a guy like Luke Fickell. Like, look, like maybe Edwards is the guy, maybe he isn't, but we knew these other guys weren't. Like, we will reassess this in 2 months and try to put something different together.
I made the roster so bad. What did you think was going to happen? Keep me for another year. It'll turn around, I promise.
Thunder did say that Franklin was the head coach in waiting at Maryland before leaving for Vandy, so that might be the kind of connections that people are making there. For
back in the day when they did the old in waiting, remember that with like Muschamp? Wasn't Muschamp in waiting?
Yeah, it makes me feel old when you say that, but yes, I do remember that.
Jimbo, that was a fun one. Shane says Dabo will get around 10 players in the portal next year. Mark it down.
Okay, how many did he get this year?
I think what he's insinuating, I think, is he does the full turnaround. Like, I never did this. Screw this. That's not how I do it. And then he sees everybody be great and everybody mock and ridicule him for it. And then he's like, you know what? If I'm going to do it, I'm going to go like in. And so he just goes the complete opposite and just gets them all. I think that's what he's insinuating.
If you're Dabo, strategically, that could make sense, because then if it doesn't work out, you can say, I was pressured to do this. Yeah. This is not the way that I do things here.
Yeah, you go right back to,
where like you cannot, if it goes poorly, you cannot get rid of me over this.
He's playing chess,
Yeah,
I guess so.
Sometimes you have to assure, mutually assured destruction and other, different pathways. It's all a game.
Do you think there's any way he leaves Clemson and takes one of these open jobs?
I don't think he would leave directly for another job. I think that it would be like getting out of like a really long-term marriage and then being, dating somebody new like a week from now, but trying to think, no, we met after, like, there was no overlap. I think he has to take at least a year before he can, if he were to leave on his own accord. If he's fired, whatever. Right? Is that?
Would they fire him?
I don't think they'll fire him.
I don't think they could.
Yeah. Is he, outside perspective, not Clemson fans, is he like one of the most hated coaches in college football?
I don't think he's.
I don't hate him.
I just find his
I need Moxley.
shtick tired at this point, and like not
that's probably a
particularly,
better way to put it.
you know, attached to the reality of the modern college football game. Just like anytime you see somebody who's like clearly working off a different like play sheet than everybody, you're just like, what are you doing, man? Like, stop. Like,
Yeah.
Be normal. Like, I just want to grab him, but be normal, man.
Just do something normal once. I don't hate him. I think he's just like, it's just comical. It's always been comical. It's like maybe one of the most made fun of. I would say yes, but in terms of like hated, well, he seems like a decent guy, like a good guy, right? He's always talking. Nah, I'm not gonna go that route. So it's like whatever, do your thing. But I know you're gonna lose and you're archaic.
Yeah, Martin says Brian Kelly's worse than Dabo. Yeah, totally.
Brian Kelly, I don't think any of us disagree with that.
Like,
I don't think any of us disagree.
But do you think DJ Durkin is? By the way, we didn't even talk about that with the Auburn stuff. Do you think he's the most likely guy to take that job? Because
no, I don't.
Talking about that.
No, I think he'll have. What does Auburn have left? 3 games left. I think he'll be there for 3 more games and be gone.
Yeah, if Durkin was like a good fit with Freeze, but I don't know how long that lasts. You can't be a bad coach and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Or you can't not get wins. You could be a good coach, just not get wins. Well, that's not going to work.
Yeah. And you can get wins and be a coach like DJ Durkin to stick around for a long time with all your other stuff too. Yeah, because there was Thunder mentioned that too. I just want to go back to this really about the Ed O thing when we were talking about Ohio State about if they would fire him. Ed Orgeron got fired for other things,
some weird stuff.
Yeah, I don't know that I get the point you're making, Thunder. I don't think that the Ryan Day losing to Michigan 4 years in a row kind of correlates though with why Orgeron was let go at LSU.
Maybe a 4th loss makes him a little bit wonky, turns him a little bit.
Let's see. What did Shane say? Do y'all think Freeze still has a job if the refs didn't hose him in the Oklahoma game? No, because I think they all said it really came down to only scoring 3 points against Kentucky, right? I don't think the win against Oklahoma saves your job unless you knocked Oklahoma from being undefeated, maybe. But no, I don't think so.
Would have helped, but I don't think it would have been enough.
Yeah.
Might have delayed it another week.
As I say, it might have bought him till the end of the season. I don't think we would have made it pat. Like he would not have been on the sideline for week 1 of next year, I think, regardless. So.
All right, I'm going to ask you guys one question to get out of here. Just one word answer, because every week we have ended the show thinking we're going to talk about something else, and then a coach gets fired. Austin, who's the next coach to get fired that we're talking about next week?
Oh, Jesus, I wish I would have had a little more of a heads up on
that
one.
Austin froze for a second. Do you have an answer until Austin gets back?
I was going to say Jonathan Smith, but they don't play this week. I'll say maybe Bill O'Brien.
That's an interesting choice.
Why not? They're 1-8.
I liked his tiny rant yesterday. I don't know if anybody.
We might get a week off.
I mean, I would have said maybe like Norvell, but I don't know that they have the money. I don't think they had the money to fire him. That's rumors that they just don't have that cash. Between that and like they're trying to build up to get out of the ACC.
Yeah,
Jonathan Smith's a good answer. Yeah,
they're just on bye. Like they're not gonna. Well,
why didn't they fire him this week?
I don't know. I would have fired him the minute he said he's benching Aiden Childs, but I think that's a personal thing for me. So, I don't know. I would say I'm Norvell is probably the one from, but I think what you just said, Austin, is probably true. They probably don't have the money to buy him out. I think Luke Fickell is probably the one, but again, after what we just talked about, I don't know that he's the one that's going to go.
So. 27 points. I just can't believe it.
Yeah, that is bad. All right. Well, we will be back next week. Sorry, Kirk. We had to keep you there on the sidelines. I wasn't sure Austin was going to join. I was just about to have you come on and jump on with me and Chris K, and then Austin decided to jump in the background there and join the show. So if no coaches are fired next week, we will do our best to get you on the show. Until next week, we will talk to you guys again soon. What is it you guys always say? Good night and good luck.